right, today we got my father, the one and only funding guy, real estate investor out in Tampa, Florida, born and raised in New York, Bronx, the BX. Got him on the documentary, just here to lend his hand on his expertise and what he really does out here in the real world. So my first question to you, Dad, is talk to me about being a black father in America, 3 kids, compared to your father, Edward Felder Sr., who had 5 to raise in the late 60s and 70s. Just talk to me about how fatherhood is now in the modern age and being a black father as well.
Hey, thanks for the question. First of all, thank you for the platform. You're doing an amazing job. Your platform is taking off. Well, I'm privileged to sit down on your couch here, well, actually the couch on my property, just to dialogue with you. So I'm excited for what you're doing, your entire team, and I see you doing big things. So yes, it's a pleasure being a father. So the transition between my father and I is, yes, he had 5 kids, I have 3. He grew up in New York City, where it was a dog-eat-dog world. He was an amazing person. He was the first person that I knew who came home from work, who read the encyclopedia every single year. Today, I have Google, right? Where I can go in, what's this, what's that? I can Google, pull it up in seconds. Ask him a question, he was the original Google. Things didn't look good. We started off on a 3-story brownstone. We had 4 cars in the backyard. We were living the life of Riley. We were George and Wheezy. That's what our family looked like. But we came upon hard times during the 70s when New York was everything on fire, especially the Bronx. And we kind of fell into that trap where we had everything. And we went from having everything to not much of anything at all. But at the end of the day, we survived. We thrived. So that's what it's about. It's not about having challenges. It's about expect the challenges. How do you prepare for it? And then how do you excel in spite of everything? So maybe that's something my father didn't have when he ran into roadblocks and challenges. He was the #1 recruit in the New York City Police Academy, an amazing officer, saved lives, but he ran into challenges and he succumbed to demons because he couldn't deal with it. So I'm excited that I'm on your platform where I can share that, listen, expect challenges, expect obstacles, expect that people will not believe in you and your project, but that's okay. Something my father should share with me, I'm sharing with you. It's not their dream. It's not their vision. God gave it to you, right? This platform is yours, no matter who believes in it. God gave it for you, and you manifest the dream, right?
Second question for you, Dad. Talk about what it means to be a property investor and commercial lender. And second part to that question, what does the phrase buy back the block mean to you as well?
Yo, being a real estate investor is the best thing that's ever happened to me, besides you, of course, right? Listen, we talked about earlier growing up in the Bronx. The most frightening thing was there I was in the Bronx. You know the expression, when it rains, it pours. That was my life. At times, my father wasn't there at night. So as a 12-year-old, it began raining. And I could look up in the sky and you would see the rainbows. You could see drop, drop, drop. And sometimes when it was flooding, that was my life. So what did I have to do? As an 11 and 12 and 13-year-old, I had to go up 2nd story, 3rd floor, story of the roof and patch up the holes, right? So that it wouldn't flood the interior of my house, right? That's crushing. But more importantly than that was that when I was on top of the roof, where I lived in the South Bronx, it was only minutes from Manhattan. I could look down the street and I could see the Empire State Building. I could see the Twin Towers. So yes, I was trapped in a world where I was so close. That's how life is sometimes. I was so close to massive success, the opulence of Manhattan, but I was stuck in the South Bronx. Sometimes we're stuck and don't know how to get out of where we are. And that's the magic of real estate. If you're looking to create wealth, generational wealth, that's one thing we all can have. And I would tell people, many of my students, you know, son, I've written a number of books, and it's my pleasure to share with people all over the country, right? So oftentimes it doesn't take money, right? It doesn't take great credit, right? It doesn't take a whole lot of what people think. We're trapped in our own belief system, right? Many people of color don't have a great relationship with money. right? We don't have a great relationship with property. So we think it's be honest. We can never get it, right? So my challenge would buy back the block, buy back the neighborhood, and the art of the flip is to teach everyday amazing people how do you say double up, triple up, quadruple up, right? That's it. Right now, we as people of color, we are under attack. Son, we are under attack financially. Everyone else sees our communities as emerging markets and know how to move and monetize it, except for us. So my challenge when I speak across the country, it's not just for everyone else, right? There's the pastors who I speak to. I speak to urban leagues, NAACP. I speak to churches. I speak to individuals who are wealthy, right? There are people right now who are making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. They're begging for an opportunity. How do you buy real estate? Because it's an asset that appreciates, right? But you can also defer the income, right? So you can make massive amount of money, but you can write it off your taxes, right? So it's something that we absolutely need, but we don't know how to move with it. For example, let me share this with you. 65% of the hotels in the United States are owned by who? People of Indian descent, Indian American. And they all come from, so that's over $1 billion, a few $1 billion of hotels, right? And it doesn't require an MBA, a MD, a PhD, a CNA, right? It doesn't require a high school degree, right? It only requires that you have citizenship and work a few years behind the front desk. And we're able to get funding for person after person after person. Have a 700 score, work 2 years in a hotel, and I can get you $5 million, right? So that's what you want to focus on. Not the problems, but the opportunities that we face.
So, Mr. Funding Guy, I'd love to ask you this one great question I have for you. What were the risks you took personally to leave the corporate banking job that you once had, making exceptionally good money, to now take on the challenge of the American dream, becoming an entrepreneur? Where would you succeeding, and where did you learn your losses and fail at?
Well, here's the biggest thing. When you're married, and I was married at the time, and you have a son, which was you were premature, born 3.5 months early, and I was faced with, do I stay in corporate America, or do I keep going forward? It was at the time I worked for the largest bank in the country. I'm sorry, I worked at the largest bank in Florida, and it was purchased by the largest bank in America. Boom! It was a merger. It was an acquisition, right? And eventually, I wasn't in the numbers game, so I had to start my own company, right? So I went from knocking on the door, Mr. Banker let me in, Mr. Banker let me in. So I realized I was the product, right? I was the asset. So I went from working for the largest bank in the country to setting up my own shop in New Tampa. And the crazy thing was, I went to many of my colleagues who were still working for the bank. Watch this. It was massive amount of deals that they couldn't do. And guess what happened? Because I had great relationships with them. When they could not fulfill their clients' needs, they would call me, hey, I can't help you on this loan right now, but I have a great person who's amazingly talented, knows numbers better than I do. Let me get them on the phone. Listen, they look good by referring their clients to me, right? Master your field. You can't be all things to all people, right? That was the first thing they learned. But if they couldn't do it, how do you refer to someone else, right? So I was a value add to those folks. And so I went from making, a decent amount of money to making $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000 on every transaction I was doing and just lending, right? So the transaction started on the upfront, mastering my level of expertise in lending, mastering my level of analyzing deals, mastering my level of underwriting transactions. So in the evenings, after I had a full day of work, when I worked for corporate America, I was always thinking bigger. If someone else can do it, why can't I? So I became a commercial lender because everybody who needed money had to tell me every one of their insider tips on how to become successful. Man, whether it was a shopping center, apartment complex, whether it was a restaurant, whether it was wholesaling, no matter what it is, if you wanted my money from the bank, you had to tell me everything that made you great. So I had hundreds and hundreds of businesses, ideas, the individuals who I met with, and then I was able to choose. when I started my own business, I had already mastered almost every type of business, analyzing and funding them. So yes, it was a challenge. I had a family at the time, and money wasn't as regular, but you had to manage the money and you had to manage the opportunity.
Well, now I know where my ambition and drive comes from, so I'm glad you shared that. How do you plan on teaching financial literacy to your kids and young Black men and women who know nothing about investing or real estate and dealing with property?
So great question. So what I've done, I've written a few books. So it's not enough to write the books. How do you scale it, right? So we're gonna expand the tour. Prior to COVID, we were in 10 cities a month, sharing our expertise on how do we take a regular property and then how do we scale it up and make it far more profitable, right? We mentioned earlier, we have an advantage. People of color, everyone else feels uncomfortable coming into our area, right? But they will come and they will monetize it, right? And then they take the profits out. So my passion, my goal, my imprint is to take everyday people, the 20 to 30-year-olds, right? Teach them how to master this game of real estate, master this monopoly. How do you gain a monopoly within our own community? So that's what we strive to do. So what have we done so far? We've created cartoons, one called the Robin Hood of banking. We've created podcasts, we've created audiobooks, and now we're going back on tour. So I just want to take that information, all of that content, and pour it into people just like who I was. I needed that when I was growing up. So hopefully I will inspire, not only inspire, but leave a blueprint, leave a roadmap for people. Again, you don't have to have the credit, right? You don't have to have a wad of cash. If you have hustle and you're able to connect with people, I mean, you're going to do amazing in real estate. Not only in real estate, in any type of business you want to kickstart.
Dad, you mentioned something about value add and also something about real estate. Can you go into depth about what that really means?
Great question. I'll be real quick, right? So value add is something that we buy. So we talked about we bought a 3-1 and we're converting it into a 5-3. So let me show you something else. So in addition to the 5-3, we also have a shed right here that we're going to stucco and convert into an additional living space. So that means we'll go from 5 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms or a room. So this would be a separate living quarters. This is a value add, okay? Another place where if I just wanted to rent this by itself is worth $1,200. You got it? Also, what's really cool, son, is this property here. You see the background we have here looks ugly, it's stucco, right? We're gonna stucco this whole thing, son, and it's gonna look brand spanking new when we're done, right? So here's the other thing. So we're gonna have, this is brand new, and it's gonna look just like this one here. Concrete and stucco, right? Is a value add. The last thing I want to show you how we scale up and add additional value, son. Pardon me for turning my back on you, hate to do that. Is we're gonna add a tiny house right here. So can you imagine that? So you took a house that was a 3-1, we added 2 additional bedrooms, 2 additional bathrooms. Now we have a shed we're gonna convert into a living space. And then right here, we're gonna put a tiny house. So we have 3 additional sources of repayment, 3 additional sources of cash flow. So that's what you do. You find something that's already existing, and how do you scale it up to make it more profitable? That's adding value. That's what we call value add.
Yo, Pops, Dad, Edward Felder. You know, you're known as Edward Felder and Dad to me, but out in these streets, you're Funding Guy Jr., the Robin Hood of banking. Tell me where that nickname came from, what that's all about.
Yo, thanks, man. I appreciate the love, son. So actually, I'm known as the funding guy. I started my career as a commercial lender, working for some of the largest banks in the United States. Can you imagine that? Someone who grew up in the Bronx, who ate free cheese, who literally was homeless for a number of years as a child, separated from my family. We went from doing that to being a financial wizard for people now paying me to help them structure the deals, right? So one of my first jobs after graduating college and getting my MBA was going from Chicago, going from New York, going from Clearwater, going to Atlanta, going to North Carolina, and teaching bank presidents how to structure loans. Can you imagine that? A 22, 23-year-old kid telling a bank market president, yo, structure the loan this way, or you're gonna be on Craigslist looking for help wanted position, right? So that was my entree into lending, right? So so the Robinhood is I took from the rich, the large banks in the country, and I transferred that information. Now giving people, ordinary people, giving them the advantage. So one of my books is called "It's Money in the Bank." When you go through that book, you're gonna know as much as a 30-year lending executive. Can you imagine that? So we're taking from the rich the information, transferring it, and giving it to the everyday people. So they too can be a part of this wealth transformation. So I'm known as the funding guy, your Robinhood the bank, and of course, you inspired me. We created cartoons, we created podcasts, we've created a platform where we go across the country with the Buy Back the Neighborhood tour. It's all about how do we inspire the next generation to do better, and not only teach them, but give them a blueprint to actually walk them through. Is it okay if I walk you through one of our properties right now?
Sure.
All right, let's go. So this is one of our latest properties that we have. It's in Tampa, Florida. And we do this all over the country, right? So I'll just walk you through one of the properties. So you've been here before, but we're gonna act like you haven't been here, son. Okay, so right here, what we bought is a 3-1, okay? So this is one of our electricians. What's up, Joe? How you doing? Good. So let me walk you through here right now. So what I would do is, when we look for a piece of property, son, we want to do what's called a value add, okay? A value add. Yes, it's a 3-1, but what else can it be, right? So this property here, we're taking it from a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, into a 5-bedroom, 3 bath, increasing the value to $200,000 in under 1 year. How cool is that? So let me walk you through. So early on, we had this property here where it was full of cabinets, right? So now if you look to the left, this is gonna be a shower, this is gonna be a toilet, this is the sink, right? And so what we've done is we've opened up this facility, and this is gonna be the kitchen. Come out around. So here we go. This is gonna be our new kitchen. We'll have a window. We're gonna take this open, and we're gonna have an open concept, right? So this is the new diagram of our kitchen. So we've taken what was a large kitchen, we killed dead space, and we monetized it, adding a new bathroom. Now, by just doing that, we've increased the value exponentially. How sweet is that?
That's pretty awesome.
So how many can you do like that, right? How many deals can you do where you're able to add to just a bedroom? So how else do we add this? Let me walk through. So we've done some recessed lights to make it sexier. So if you come back next week, if I'm able to come back on your platform next week, son, we're gonna walk you through what the after looks like.
So, Mr. Funding Guy, last but not least question. What is the great legacy you plan on leaving with your family and your children and your grandchildren when they do come? What words of advice do you want to leave with the next generation of financially literate youth that would look up to you one day?
Yo, I love that. Thank you for that question, son. Listen, the first thing, how do you give up good to get to great? How do you give up good to get to great? So that was the first thing I want you. I want you to, if you're gonna be thinking, think big, right? Think big, right? Yes, you have a nice podcast, but then you should be looking 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. How do I have an entire studio? How do I have 10, 15, 20 podcasters coming into my channel? Thinking big is what my dream is to impart on my 3 children. But not my 3 children, but the hundreds of young people I come across every day, right? Monetize your greatness, right? There's so many people that die, and some of the most talented people ever born died with their greatness, buried with scripts, buried with movies, buried with books, buried with songs, because they never delivered their product to the market, right? So my goal is to inspire you to birth your dream, right? Whatever it is you want to do, right? I tell people all the time, wake up and dream. What does that mean, Funding Guy? What does that mean, Dad? What does that mean, Mr. Felder? That means that every day, get up 15, 20, 30 minutes early and work on your dream. Before you have your 9 to 5, work on your dream. I don't know what I want to do. Write it down. Many people begin the first of the year, it's called a vision board. And that's great. They pay $1,500. They have 1,000 people. Great. Vision boards are cute. But what I get excited about, what I want every young person to get excited about, is sticky pads. I want to do this. Done. I want to read a book about starting a business. Done. I want to create an LLC. Done. I want to start connecting people. Boom. I want to be a value add. Boom. I want to go to 5 meetings per day. Boom. Right? Sticky pads with your dream on it. That's how you get from I don't know to I can't stop this tremendous movement that I have in birth my dream. So if anything I want to impart is to go for it. Don't follow anyone else's dream except you. But don't cheat the process. Give it everything you have and then 10x it. Because the future is absolutely yours. You guys have the internet. You have TikTok, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. There was a time when you had to spend $10,000, $100,000 a minute to get in front of the number of people you can. Right now, it costs you 5 seconds to get a message out to your partner. You have a tremendous advantage, right? Utilize that advantage. Create your product, birth your dream, and then repeat and rinse. Repeat and rinse. Repeat and rinse. Listen, I'm so excited to have been allowed on this platform. I see you do an amazing thing. Your team is phenomenal. Listen, trust God, trust the process, be a value add to others, share your greatness, build a community of like-minded people, and then that will change the entire trajectory, not only your generation, but your family, your sister, your brother, your cousins, your friends, and your entire team. Hey, thank you so much. I'm Ed Felder, the funding guy, your Robinhood banking, rocking with my son.